And we're recording and on, and we'll see if anybody joins us.
Thanks. And I recall, we will start with the attendance.
First, let's call the meeting to order.
Oh, call the meeting to order.
Yeah,
I'm trying to open it up. I'm calling the meeting to order.
there you go. And we're official now.
Okay. This is my first run at this, so.
You're doing great.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I just finally got the agenda open. All right, now take the attendance. We'll just go around the room and introduce ourselves. Carrie Falkenrath.
Philip Mitchell,
Okay.
thanks for the introduction on the email.
Clark Coachailing.
Fox. Steve Rizicki.
Susan Sunderland.
Okay, and then you would have to call actually Carrie for Chris and for Ann, who are not present. So
Okay.
they have to call them and then they're not present here. So
Okay. Do I just go ahead and say their name?
they say their name,
Okay, Chris, Ann Barenkamp, I'll say Ann first,
not present.
not present. And I just, because I'm blanking out on
Chris
Chris Redford, thank you.
And not present.
And then do we call on our, who's joining us remotely?
Nobody.
Oh, okay,
Nobody is attending yet. So the only one we are missing right now is Councilman David Frank,
Okay.
Councilperson David Frank. So he may join us later. He may come walking in.
I was thrown off by the other,
So that's Eric Peterson.
Pearson.
We discovered we had a technical difficulty.
Okay.
When I logged in under the city's login for the Zoom meeting, it was kicking the green space out of their Zoom meeting.
okay,
So, and come to find out, we only have two logins, Eric's and the city of Webster Groves, because it's two accounts and you have to pay for them.
okay,
So
yeah, that makes sense.
luckily I was able to get a hold of Mr. Peterson.
I thought maybe Mr. Franklin and Mr. Peterson switched as our liaison or something.
No.
Okay. Well, then,
All right.
attendance, our next is to review and approve previous meeting minutes.
And I
To
did
first send those
set
out.
them all out on Friday.
Friday. Do we have any comments or a motion to approve?
Yeah, I approve, I move to approve the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have one comment, just to show that I read them. My name was spelled wrong in one place, but my name gets spelled wrong a lot, so I'm not really worried. But I did want to show that I read them, just in case you were trying to trick me.
No, not bad.
Like on page 2, I think. Do you want me to tell you where?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
let me-
find it, and honestly, it doesn't necessarily have to be
Okay,
changed, but
yeah, it doesn't need to be changed. I just in case anybody was trying to catch me up. Okay, do I have a second for the motion?
First name and last.
The last name, it happens all the time. It's L and the A are reversed.
I'll second.
Okay, so second. Yeah, Falkenrath. Did you find it? It should be Falkenrath. I actually type it wrong myself a lot. It's not my main name. Okay.
So you got a second, you got to say all in
Oh,
favor.
all in favor. Thank you.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Any opposed?
There we go. Good.
Thank
So
you.
approved.
Reverse.
You're welcome.
Okay, so previous meeting minutes are approved. Do we don't have any
Any guests? and
attending citizens to do. Do
Still no attendees, but
you want to say anything and introduce yourself?
I'm Philip Mitchell and thanks for having me and I'm gonna be your new alternate. That's about it. You know,
alternate member.
I'll be there.
Welcome.
And
Welcome, yeah.
I did add, yes, I added you to the email.
Yeah.
That's we were all in the email. Okay. I have to put off the new.
Between Southwest Park and Annunciation on Central.
Oh, you live on Central?
South, yeah,
So do I.
cool.
Yeah.
Are you far down?
We are like 3 houses from Southwest Park.
Yeah, and you had the garage sale, right?
Nope,
No, the block, okay. Never
no,
mind.
no, I was gonna say, I missed the garage.
Did you
sale.
go to the block party?
My across the street did block
That's
party.
what it was.
Yeah, okay.
It was when you were on vacation.
Yeah, there was a garage sale. It was probably my house. Actually, it would be nice if it was my house. A lot of stuff to be sold. Okay, so old business. I guess we'll just jump into that, right? That's fine. Okay, so I believe Clark has a draft mission statement.
Yes,
Um,
no, that, again, draft, full draft. On the backside is actually the ordinance that formed us. So we can't really, this is already our ordinance of who we are and what the meetings are and so forth. So in reading that, it gave me a little bit of latitude to write the mission statement that I put together. Again, this is a draft. with a few blanks, and I'd just like to review it, and don't want to make, this
Yeah.
official tonight, but I'd like people to go back and see if you have anything to add and so forth. But I'll just read it if that's all right. The mission of the Webster Groves Traffic Advisory Commission is to advise city council to enact policies and ordinances that make all transportation options, including walking, biking, using wheelchairs, taking the bus, and driving cars, safe, reliable, and accessible. We will do this by proactive, responsive, and collaborative methods. Neighboring communities have seen success with their complete streets and Vision Zero policies. The commission will seek guidance and best practices and success stories from them and other cities to ensure Webster Groves is safe for all who travel within and through the city. The next section is for goals. I think it would be good for us to come up with some goals that are, as Captain Perk said last time, are measurable and things that we really want to accomplish. Proactive. What I've said here is that I think the TAC will research and provide expertise on improving transportation situations for all modes of transportation, especially those that consider the needs of vulnerable road users, pedestrians, bicycle riders, wheelchair users, and transit riders that are more likely to face safety issues and fewer options. Responsive, and Carrie actually wrote, I didn't get this in here yet, but really sort of the responsive section is when community members come to us, like the Elm situation or Valley Park. What's our method for responding to them? And I'll put Carrie's suggestion in there and send this out. And then collaborative, I just added at the end that we really shouldn't work in a silo, that we will work in tandem with the relevant Webster Groves commissions and city departments, in particular, the commissions of sustainability, city plan, arts, health and environmental services, parks and recreation, green space, and those overseeing the business districts, as well as the city departments of police, city manager, public works, public affairs and engagement, to ensure that decisions are made at the community so that citizens and visitors can travel comfortably within and between our community. So that's my start. Would love any feedback now, or if you want to have time to mull it over and just shoot comments to the group, that might be another way to handle that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just found coming in, I didn't really understand what our role was. And I just wanted to put something down that we can work with together and come up with what our mission is.
It kind of brings up a question I was wondering about if somebody can clear up, but how much of this is having input on things that come across the table of the committee, and how much of it is kind of created from the committee outwardly and then passed forward in terms of it kind of passed along from the community as well.
It's funny because when we kind of rebooted this commission, we all had the same question, I think. And what we discovered was historically, it's been mostly issues that were brought forward predominantly. But as a whole, our group really feels that we have an opportunity to try to be a little bit more proactive.
Okay.
And then I think this is one of the ways we're trying to take steps towards that is by having kind of a mission statement and some policies that we utilize moving forward. Just so we're not randomly creating things out of space and throwing things into space.
And I think
Okay.
safety was in our conversations, and this is only my third meeting. too, so some of us have been here.
Yeah.
I was on the old group, the old committee, but
More
basically,
just-
like she said, it's pretty much someone had an issue. They wanted to put a stop sign in their neighborhood or something because traffic was going too fast. So then they would send a petition with the people that live there to the police department, his predecessor. And then he would call a meeting. The first few years, we kind of had a quarterly meeting, but then we went 2.5 years with no meetings.
Yeah.
Because they had nobody evidently sent anything in or just dropped off. And then they kind of rebooted this, and that's kind of where we're at now on the beginnings of that. type thing.
How much input was given into the bike lane thing?
None.
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 So that
Was
was,
it, was it in existence?
but that was actually part of the.
Larger plan,
From 2014.
but still,
Right.
still, I'm just.
Yeah.
No, I know, no, it's,
Was this committee, was this not really together when that was?
I don't-
Or was
Yeah,
there
it was not.
nothing?
It was
Okay,
not.
It was later after,
Correct.
but the implementation is just now coming
right,
Right.
coming up.
Which that's part of the Sustainability Commission was
Yeah.
part of that and all that, which we've also talked about, which we're collaborating together as committees together now.
Yeah.
Because of that. Yeah, this commission was non-existent for a few years.
but I do think moving forward, that's something we can figure out maybe with Councilman Franklin or how to
Yes.
address is. I'm not sure that historically, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a mechanism for the council to come back to the commission and say, hey, what is your
Yeah.
thoughts on this? I think we come first, so by the time it hits them, I don't see them going backwards historically.
I've never
Yes.
seen, no, there's
Right,
never
never.
really.
Right. So, or even saying in a meeting, like, did anybody talk to the traffic advisory commission? Like, I've never.
Well, I have
seen
seen, because I used to attend the city council meetings once in a while, and someone would speak up or a comment section and they would say something about it, and they would then kind of refer them
Okay,
to go to start with the traffic commission to start that process.
So it's not like anybody said, hey, is there any bright ideas regarding that or anything?
And if you look at the duties section, the very last thing on the backside. This is what their ordinance said our role is shall act in an advisory capacity of the council matters pertaining to traffic safety within the city and shall perform other duties and render other services as may be directed from council. I think what I'm hearing here is that's never really happened. Council's never really directed. Right.
Historically, what it's been is an issue was brought up, as I was saying. Siri wants to be a part of the conversation. So, an issue be brought up, we would then look at it, maybe have our public works department conduct a study of the intersection or whatnot, run the tubes and see how many cars are going through it, and then bring it back and say, yes, this does meet qualifications for a stop sign or does not. And then the traffic advisory commission would then say, then no, we're gonna vote for a no movement on a stop sign, or yes for the stop sign or speed limit change or whatever. And then if it was a yes, then that would be put back on my plate. We would go and draft up an ordinance, a draft ordinance to present to the council for them to talk about and discuss, and then either pass or say yay or nay on an ordinance change to put a stop sign there or not, or whatever. So ultimately, again, it's an advising capacity
Gotcha.
to present things to the council for an ultimate vote on.
Well, I have a quick question, since this is only the second meeting. I think, was it partially because people didn't know how to bring things up to this commission? I've had, since people had found out that I'm on this commission, which I've already had, well, actually, two of the same requests. And I didn't know, they don't know how to proceed with it, and I didn't know if I just come and.
I don't know how people were most started by it. I mean, I guess if they contacted City Hall, how do I go about that? Do I
Yeah.
think that somebody at City Hall would refer them to us?
They
I
would
don't
refer
know
them
what
to
they
me.
did do, or to
Yeah,
you.
so a lot of times we would get calls that would come in to the police department there at City Hall. They would forward them to me or my traffic sergeant.
Mhm.
We would then discuss the issue at hand and whatnot, and then I would then, in recent history, would then be presenting those issues like I have been to you guys via email. Hey, I've got this complaint that came in. This is something that we want to look at, and then I would forward that information on to you all.
Because
So
it
and
was a
that's the
long
process.
time.
But
before
for a
you-
long time, there
Yeah,
wasn't,
there was
it didn't exist for.
Right.
Yeah, it was really
Non-agricultural.
dormant for
Okay.
several years.
And I think that's really important to have that responsive section so people understand, hey, when you have something, here's where you go and here's what we'll do with that.
Exactly, maybe.
know,
put
here's how
that
we'll
in
hear
the
it.
times, you know, somehow, I we don't want to be inundated, but.
And I said, I think probably the time.
What's our budget?
yeah.
We don't have one.
You don't have to-
I was thinking.
I think once we move forward with this and we actually get this established where we have our mission and our guidelines set out, I don't see a problem where we couldn't work with our public relations for the city and get something out in
Yes.
Webster Kirkwood Times or out on our webpage about if a citizen does have an issue with some kind of
Right.
traffic complaint or a concern of something, how to go about getting it heard.
A legitimate one.
Yeah,
So,
and I think this one was legitimate, that
sure.
two separate people have brought. Those more crosswalks up by the restaurants.
Oh,
Um,
in on
Right.
Lockwood.
yes, that it's kind of dangerous, especially if you're crossing with children. So like two separate, totally separate people brought that up to me, so.
I think if any significant issues go public, it'll be apparent. So if the high school park begins to go public, or if anything changes on Elm go public and the traffic advisory committee is referenced, then everybody's gonna, because there's gonna be a lot of
Because
response.
particularly with one of
Attention.
the ones we're gonna talk about tonight is gonna
Yeah, so I think folks know.
Right. start to.
Yeah.
Start to see.
I got a couple wording changes.
Sure.
That make all transportation options, would you be open to using the word commuting? Rather than transportation, so consider that transportation's, I'm not sure that's the right word.
I think commuting though implies only people going to and from work, and we're trying to capture, or school,
Well,
we're trying to capture
Passing
people,
through.
right?
well, the walking, biking are just, don't strike me as transportation.
Oh, they are transportation.
All right.
Very much so. I'm gonna throw another one in, which is real big in Western right now, golf carts.
Oh, that's a good point too.
How does biking not strike you as transportation?
Well, I bike lots of places, but
It's you're.
I think of community, but obviously I'm wrong. And then the other one would be comfortable within just
between the community, what's between the communities? Should that be, what do you mean?
Within?
Should that be plural or should that be?
The
last word.
at the very bottom, I would think at the community level or something, or.
But then, yeah, but
Someone
then
within the community would do it.
Yeah, you could take between out.
Yep.
Or within and to and from the community.
And in that same sentence, did you mean made at the community level?
Yeah, that's can comment on it.
Okay.
I think what struck me in that first paragraph going back to was, when I thought about transportation options and mentioned walking, we're not concerned with somebody's walking on the driveway. on the property. So my first thought was to put something public in there.
Is that you?
It is me,
But then,
only because I was gonna see if I could share screen.
so that's,
I don't know if that's allowed or
I would
not.
have to.
you know, our
as
concern is not about
a-
folks,
to,
safety ones. It's-
Because I didn't print mine.
but
But if it's.
For
no, it's
instance,
no big deal.
I will
You're
walk
homeless.
that time
You shouldn't.
anywhere within 3 miles of my house, I'll walk it.
That's wonderful. I know.
No, right. But that's what I mean about transportation. I mean, that's sort of a safety. How do you get from here to there? I think that's what. And the same with biking, right?
You're saying that you just don't want people, you don't want to imply that you can trounce in between and anywhere, any nook and cranny.
Yeah, that anybody
Okay.
walking anywhere.
Oh.
The safety of their
I
walking.
see what you mean. I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How high are your steps at home?
Oh, no, that's the, what is that?
I have a
Yeah,
little-
that's somebody else.
I have a little hill on my side.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, keep them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So noodle it some more. I don't think we need to spend all, but goals, I think is something that would be really, if we had 3 goals or 5 goals, what are our real goals? For us?
Right.
What is the goal of the commission?
Safety, create
Well,
safer, more accessible and transportation within and through the city.
Well, and I had one too, I think one of our, personally, the reason we're kind of doing some of these policies is that to assure that our recommendations are transparent and fairly applied. Or evenly applied or universal, whatever the word, but I mean, fair is one of those.
One of the things, Philip, that we, been working on a lot with the parking around the high school. And, there's certain ordinances that have come up, like Mason is, you can't park there unless you're a resident. Or you have to rent this, or no parking during the day, or different things that are just sort of piecemealed over the years. So I think that's what you're saying,
And
right? That it's- that
Yes, and I think that's one of the things that jump started this, how proactive can we be? Because when we first rebooted, one of our first issues was looking for more parking restrictions around the high school. I think as a group, we,
A comprehensive plan around.
That's what.
parking.
yes,
Yeah.
that's, well, I mean, what came to us was a request for more parking restrictions, and as a group,
Restriction.
Restriction.
Freedom.
no restrictions,
Yeah.
and as a group, first of all, for the record, we voted as a group to not recommend that request. But then further conversations, we said, it would be nice if we could take a look at this holistically
Yeah.
and make some broader recommendations to maybe revisit.
Unbiased.
Yes,
Unbiased.
revisit,
Maybe
unbiased.
not like top 5, but that's a, you know.
And you know,
Impartial.
the plan commission has 5 criteria. But every time they're reviewing something, they sort of look at, does it meet this? Does it meet this? Does it meet? I don't know if we want to go that far, but.
It's not a bad idea.
You know,
I don't know if we'd have 5 in the end, but maybe.
I mean, I have a real passion for auto calming. You know, a lot of the streets have been designed over years to get someone from here to there as fast as you can. And I think the trend now is how do you slow that down a
Reverse
little
that.
bit and calm it, because you can't enforce. We just don't have the enforcement to you know, ticket everybody.
Well, and that's years of automobile lobbyists, really. I mean, that's how we got to where we are today. That's why we have no streetcars and we have, you know.
And I think
many
one of our things that we're gonna be looking at shortly is the, you know, Elm down to Kirkham from Lockwood, that there to reduce that, I mean, to calm the traffic, to reduce the lanes. I don't know if that's a goal, a traffic calming or
Wonder if I tried looking at, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay.
What's the difference in your mind between the goals and the evaluation guidelines? Because when you mentioned having a checklist to meet, it's like no bias or partiality.
yeah,
If we
so.
were to go that direction, would that fit under guidelines?
The way I broke this up is we sort of have our mission. And then we have our goals. And then proactive, responsive, and collaborative are just sort of descriptives of how we're gonna tackle these. Our goals and our mission. So the evaluation guidelines are, I look at that as more when someone comes to us. Like, and says, you know, hey, I wanna, you know, wanna reduce the lanes on Elm. What's our evaluation guidelines? What's our process to do that? So that's how I've sort of structured this, that it's like mission, then our goals, and then these 3 bullets are just, hey, we're gonna be proactive, we're gonna be responsive, and we're also gonna be collaborative.
I think one of the things I would recommend that you all look at as well, I know Carrie, this is her realm here, but like, let's just take whatever it is. One would be data collection, right? We want to collect data. And then we want to look at positive and negative impacts of the area. If we did this or recommended this and it happened, what impact is that going to have positively? And then what also negatively is that going to impact?
And it's kind of like when someone wants to put a stop sign and you have the different rules.
We have the
and
criteria set
the
already with the
criteria by the
amount of
state,
cars that
all
buy
that,
through the main road.
And if we did
versus
put a stop
secondary.
sign in, what will that do? And if we don't, what will that?
Tools are available besides just our intuition that is probably wrong.
Public work, you talking about data gathering?
Yeah,
We have traffic tubes. We also are right in the process now, the police department, of getting some, I don't even know how you want to describe it, some radar boxes that aren't the big full radar trailer. So they're a smaller box that would gather actual data of cars, the speed they're driving. So the drivers wouldn't really see them. So it really wouldn't give, you drive down the road, you see that big radar trailer blinking at speed at you, you slow down a little bit, right? So we're also doing that. So there's some tools out there. So we have traffic tubes, counters. We particularly use those for stop signs and that, see how many cars are traveling on a roadway. And we can also measure speed on those. And then we do radar trailer, and we're gonna have some more radar boxes and those kind of things. So that's what's gonna be available to us.
And Clark joined after, so when we rebooted, we had a full session on kind of general engineering guidelines that the city uses. So MUTCD is industry standard, and it's outlined in the MUTCD are stop sign warrants. And then the city has their own kind of adoption of that,
adoption.
yeah.
Reduced them a little bit, actually made them more strict.
right?
Did you send that to the new folks? Or
I will resend that.
Yeah,
I'll resend all this stuff.
that's how we started. I
Yes,
guess.
I'll resend it all out.
Thank you.
I forgot, I didn't even realize that, yeah.
Not
So
a
that one's real helpful, but when it comes to, when we've been asked about stop signs, we've referred back to that guidance, and it's kind of laid out for data, it's much more clear cut than something like, we want a parking restriction, there is no formal guidance for that. And I looked around and there's not even formal guidance in St. Louis County, the city doesn't have any, so I think that's why we're kind of focused on that, as a little gray area, and so far, at least since I've been here, most of our requests have been parking related.
Yeah, which is-
Yes,
and people then,
Most of it are on the high
whatever,
school.
whatever situation they petition in most cases, or that, and you
Usually the people that live in the area that's directed by, it usually try to get a petition signed by all the neighbors who are interested in possibly having that done.
well, my old neighbor, that I share a driveway with somebody new now, but, she petitioned for that sidewalk on Central. Originally, it was like 12. It was like 12 or 15 years ago. She started, it took like 5 or 7 years before it happened.
So it's possible on Bob's part.
I think, yeah, 5 to 8 years before they put it in, but.
Yeah. that's all right.
yeah, that gets into planning and development and budgeting, and you have a lot of, then there's easements and there's a whole lot that goes into particularly sidewalks.
Well, I can't, I mean, she's a very determined lady, so.
All right, I'll take these, I'll redraft, we'll have draft 2, and then maybe we'll get something sort of close and we can sort of vote on it. Thanks.
Yeah, if you would, when you have one or you have your changes, whatnot, would you send me the copy?
Sure.
Individually, and then that way I can send that copy out to the group. So, because remember, everything we do is sunshine requestable and all that. And if we have one central email point that's the dissemination,
Yeah.
that would be better.
Okay. I want to be cognizant of the time, so we need to leave enough
Yeah.
for new business. Moving on to the policy update. So we were looking also at this is where I was going to hopefully share screen, because I didn't print them out. Yeah, no, I was just giving you a heads up that I was about to try to take over. I can. Okay, so one thing we were trying to do, as I mentioned, is here's our side by side.
There we go.
Okay, so
Down off the way.
okay. So this is what we've talked about in the past, is a way to kind of base our parking guidelines and parking restrictions. I can, yeah. See if did that work? No. Oh,
There it is.
Very delayed. Hold on, let me get it better. That's a little too much. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so then I can go as wide as possible here. No, sorry. Okay. So this is something Chris and I came up with to try to get a basis in safety. So we reached out to the waste management as well as the Webster Groves Fire Department and found that the units right here, the widest trucks are about 10 feet. These top 3 lines are general guidelines when it comes to roadway design, just from my experience. And then these are our local trucks. I thought it was interesting, and I guess this will come back later. If they actually were parking and fighting a fire and they were putting out the stabilizers so that they could get like the ladder up, that is a whole different ballgame of width. And I guess we have to think about how and where we want that to factor in. But that being said, our idea was we have a minimum truck of 10 feet. You have a parked car of 6, a parking lane is usually about 8, which gives you about a 2-foot buffer between them. So how do we want to use those different dimensions to come up with some minimums as far as this first full paragraph? So I hope this is making sense. But what we were trying to figure out is, what do we want that clear path to be? We probably want it somewhere 12 to 14. I mean, 1 foot on each side of a truck isn't a lot, but if you think about narrow Webster roads, that truck is going to be on one side. So everything on one side of them, on the non-parked side or the front yard side should be clear.
Or it could be they park up on the
Yeah,
curb
or
too,
just,
whatever.
yes.
If they're out a foot, then
So, you know, and then I think
Right.
what this is leading to, these first 12 or 14 clear path, but then we wanted, it's the second paragraph really is, you know, if your street is 16 foot wide, that's really it's not enough really to park a car and have a truck and have them pass, you know, even a parked car, a truck can't get around it. So, you know, we're thinking obviously at 16 feet, we should not allow any parking. Or should we make that minimum 18 feet just to give there a bit of a buffer in between? I hope that made sense. So these dimensions, and maybe I can send this to you and we can send it out and kind of chew on it the same way.
Yeah, well, I'll need a copy of it.
That's what I meant,
For
yeah.
record.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forget to print things. I don't print anything at work anymore. We just email everything.
You can just email it.
Yeah,
I will get it in the record.
okay,
And
so
was this something that since so many inquiries were coming in related to parking? Or
this is, again, we're trying to establish kind of a transparent process that says, you know.
And the reason being is that in Webster, the streets vary so greatly.
Yeah, so I was thinking,
Because
so-
of some of the older streets that have been established for 100 years versus new streets, new construction streets.
And the one we had, which I think is in our checking back to it at Valley
Yeah.
Drive, we had a request for parking and the street itself is like 16 feet wide.
I think it's like a
Some-
little bigger, that's like
Is it?
20,
Okay.
22.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why in my head I was thinking 16, but you know, it was something like that. I mean, Central is it's only like 19 feet wide. I measured it before. So, you know, just to kind of give some like if someone comes to us and says, we want to allow parking and their street is only 20 feet wide, we can say, well, according to our internal policies, you know, you could be eligible from one side, but not the other, you know, something like that. Just something very transparent and overarching. And then coming back to our previous conversation, this could also be applied potentially if we try to go back and be more holistic about areas with parking restrictions. We can say, well, if this street, you know, if we're topping out at, you know, 24 feet gives you enough room for parking restrictions. If you have more than that, then do you need any parking restrictions from a safety standpoint? Only from a safety standpoint. So kind of being able to look at it both ways, yeah.
So I live on a 25 foot wide street,
Mhm.
cars on both sides. When they're pretty close to the curb, there's close to 12 feet available.
Right.
I go out there with the tape. When some of these kids are parked 20 inches from the curb,
Right,
there's barely 10 feet.
right. So you can't necessarily count on it.
No, so I don't know, you know,
Is
you
this-
know, I like leaving the parking, you know, not restricting it, but I don't know what the enforcement is. I don't know when cars that are parked too far out can be reported. You know, so I don't know if there's a distance.
There is, but I don't know what else. I wish Sergeant Flannery was here because he would know it. He's my traffic.
Okay.
enforcement.
Just say, it's like 18.
I think I was gonna say, I think it's 18
It's
inches.
pretty wide, yeah. And then the other issue is just some of these vehicles these kids drive with these huge tires, you know.
Yeah, I will get an answer for you on that, but I believe it's 18 inches.
Yeah.
but I-
So some of them just stick a foot, almost 2 feet out
Right,
wider into the
right.
street, you know, these kids like these trucks, you know.
Do you ever like sometimes when there's cars slowing down drivers? Parked in the street?
Well,
Like on
I
a
think that's
trash day.
good,
Trash day is one of my favorite days of the week.
yeah.
Nobody speeds down our street.
Yeah, yeah, no, I commented that when we voted, you know, on one of the places,
But you know what I'm saying? Just like,
because I do think it has that effect, exactly.
it has the effect
Right.
of
Yeah.
slowing street.
Right,
It's
It's a
you
community
inevitably,
barrier to slow down traffic.
you know, and yet maybe it's
Right.
weave a
I
little
know.
bit, but.
I have to measure my street because it's gotta be on the bare minimum. It's on both sides.
Mine
The
too.
fire trucks.
Right, yeah.
It is both play chicken on my street, you know, somebody's gotta move over,
Right.
It does. It's
yeah.
But I do think we need to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
just something, and I will send this to Captain Person, so would you rather have me send it to you and have you send it to the group, or should I send it to everybody and copy?
Nope, send it to me and then let me send it. That way we got a full one email that if we ever get sunshine, we can pull up the emails from.
Okay,
Carrie,
So-
do you have an opinion, because you're the expert,
yeah,
going wider or narrower?
I think that's why I wanted to go to the group. From a professional standpoint, we would probably go narrower because you're looking at probabilities.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can leave 12 feet, you know, what are the probability of a car being parked somewhere in a fire truck and needing that extra 2 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a residential area and it's up to our group, and that's kind of why I left. This is something I feel like should be a talking point.
Yeah.
you know, you're also, if you're parking on one side of the street, you're giving an opportunity for, you know, a truck could even, we don't want the trash trucks to do this, but in an emergency, an EMS truck could use a yard, right, and be fine.
And the narrower is a industry opinion,
Uh,
you're suggesting?
there is no industry opinions in this sort of thing, honestly.
You know, the measurements on Glendale.
I
You know,
don't
like
know.
the- It's kind of interesting because that's kind of cool. They have that set up for just past Elm. Across the street from the middle school where they have 2 lanes and then.
Oh, and then the
the
parking
white- The
lane,
white,
yes, yes,
I didn't know what those measurements are, but.
no, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Uh-uh.
You'd have to get very specific on the Hunter block because Glendale is,
All over.
it's all over. It goes from 3 lanes and 4 lanes all the way down to 2 lanes with parking, and then on the other side, no parking and 2 lanes and.
See, and ideally with things like this, we could, with something like this, this is where we could kind of try to be proactive.
And
Hey,
so,
we have a policy that says this, and we'd like to,
Yeah.
you know, talk to the council about applying this policy here.
And there is no ordinance right now.
No, I looked, the only thing in there is the actual no parking ordinances, where we cannot park, but
Right.
there's no ordinance or guidelines in the city code that says this is how we decide on that.
Right, and nothing like the, what I had sent out previously about, you know, stop sign data and stuff like that. The council has not adopted anything general on base street widths or anything like that for parking one side or 2 sides or
Right,
Now, what does the MUDTC?
nothing,
nothing.
they don't address this, this is more, I guess, of a residential
This
city.
is an
city issue.
individual municipality and a city issue. The UTC does not address it. They address speed limits and stop signs and electrical signals and. that.
And I'll just say one more thing and then we'll move on. Another thing, another reason we might want to, you know, aim narrower with these is, you know, there's a lot of 18, 20 foot wide streets in Webster. So, you know, using maybe a 12 foot minimum clearance gives you a little bit more flexibility there with people. You know, just kind of erring on the side of being more flexible as opposed to less flexible, I guess, so.
People would be upset if they all of a sudden couldn't park.
Right, or,
on the
you
street
know, I
anymore,
mean, just,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, 18 to 20 feet is very common here, and
Very
I
common.
feel like we don't want to come out of the gates with something. And again, this is just our, basically our safety policy, so I think our idea was, that's maybe one of our criteria. I think that criteria is a great idea. That's just one of them, you know, so, okay. Sure, no, that's our first draft, so I'm gonna quit sharing unless we want to put the agenda back up there, but I think I'm going to quit sharing. Let me go back to full screen. Hello.
In my perfect-
Here, oh, there it is. There it is. Gosh.
in my perfect world, my street, it'd be on one side. Right, parking on one side.
And yes, and I think a lot of people on our street would be the same way.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Although, like you said about slowing people down, gives people a nice clear straight path to speed.
Oh, yeah. That's
It
true.
does.
Yeah,
That's true.
so I mean,
Or
there's,
get your mirror knocked out.
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people like one-way streets, but one-way street really increases speeds historically. Because there's nobody coming at you and you don't have to anticipate anybody coming at you. So, yeah, everything's got its,
A lot of this stuff is kind of counterintuitive too. You wouldn't think, okay, well, that would be that, but no, in truth, it's.
Yep, that's why I mentioned before when we do it, you have to look at both positive and negative impacts of a decision and or if it were to, what is it going to cost?
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm
Because if
taking
you do
notes.
one thing, it like, you know, you limit parking to one side, well, then now drivers have a complete shot on one. Whereas if they had to do the slow little serpentine thing, it does slow the cars down. But then you have a chance to have your mirrors knocked off, or you have this chance. And
Head-on collision.
it's
Right. And you have to really, especially on one side,
a balance.
fine tune which side it's gonna be on potentially. That could
Is
be
there a
an
rule for
argument.
that? I was just wondering. No.
I was just thinking about it as you were talking, because I was like, well, you would maybe want to put it on the sidewalk side. If you only had sidewalk on one side of the street. Or the side without utility poles so that people had door swing room. I mean, you could look at it a lot of different ways, but there's all guidelines.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm dorking out. All right, old business, Valley parking requests. Do we have an update on that?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
The resident that I reached out to, I did reach out to them and they did reply. And they still believe that the width of Valley Road presents a problem. For ambulance, fire trucks, waste management, et cetera. However, they were not interested in proceeding forward with a petition because he believes that it could create a wedge or discontent between neighbors who park on the street and neighbors who don't.
Speaking of your pros and cons.
So there's a.
So where do they actually fit in your, Carrie, if you had your criteria again?
Oh,
I think they are narrower towards Swan.
We would have,
and I think it's
yeah,
16 feet.
we would have to have Public Works go out there and get an official measurement of that street and
yeah.
see where it's at. And then if you all draft your guidelines, I think that, once we get that in place, then we could readdress Valley Road again. Once we have clear guidelines on where you all want to head with this.
Where does this leave them with waste management, not picking up?
yeah, wasn't that?
That's still the dilemma.
Yeah, okay.
That's still the dilemma right now.
So the street, I'm refreshing my memory, what was the issue here? They want to put a restriction?
They want to put restriction on at least one side.
Or no parking.
Of no parking on one side for trash pickup. They wanted to do it on Wednesdays for trash pickup and then on snow removal days. I think that's what they just simply wanted, was they wanted to restrict it just on those days alone.
You're right.
Which, to be honest, we would not recommend that going to the council at all. That creates a problem because then you get people who say, I didn't see the sign, or it was behind my car and I was just parking at my neighbor's house, but it's a Wednesday and all of a sudden they're parked on a trash day and then it's now a snow day. Well, how much snow is going to have to fall before we have to put a plow out? And
That's some Chicago stuff.
that creates a whole. It'll St. Louis City, but the snow. Yeah, that's a problem because when's the snow plows coming? So
So then ultimately the ball's back in their court for now.
for now,
For now,
How many
Okay.
signatures do they make you get?
I don't know.
there isn't a minimum requirement. It's just the majority of the impacted, and we'll get to that on the next one, which is the North Elm one, which there's only 5 residents that are impacted on that. And so there's, we have all, I sent that out, all four residents, and we have all 4 of them that signed the petition.
Okay,
So,
so.
so that's valid.
So Valley Road, it's just no action at this time.
No action.
Okay. Well, and then, as you mentioned, we can pulling that agenda back up. North Elm is next. So we did as the backup, I think everybody was here, but our new member, but there's been a request to narrow the lanes on North Elm between Lockwood and Kirkham. And we have 4 of the 5 residents.
Four, I believe it might only be 4 on there.
I counted houses. And if the video maps run, it's 4.
It's 4 that actually hold an address on North Elm. Yeah. And I sent that out to everybody.
Captain Parks, what is the police department's view on this?
Initially, without any data, we can tell you, and this is where I go back to the negatives versus positives. Restricting lanes on North Elm there would create a traffic jam during morning and rush hour, all the way to Highway 44 and all the way from 44 back down to Brentwood. A single lane there would cause more problems. We would not recommend dropping to a single lane.
So the next, I mean, so that clears up. It
It clears up a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Yeah. But even in the evening time, even with 2 lanes, it backs up all the way down to Marshall Place, sometimes down almost to Brentwood.
Yes, it does.
But that is the restriction at Lockwood, right?
That is the right turn only lane at Lockwood that causes that one.
Right.
And then Lockwood now backs up all the way, now sometimes in the morning from here all the way to Big Bend.
on lock
On Elm.
on Elm.
On Elm.
Yeah, I know, I've been, yeah.
Do you think if there was a traffic
Roundabout.
circle there, roundabout right there, that would help keep the flow
Right where?
Where,
right at Kirkham and Elm?
Oh, well, that's outside of our jurisdiction because that's St. Louis County.
Yep.
Probably it would help, but
Which is.
Kirkham,
Kirkham and Big Bend.
Kirkham and Big Bend is St. Louis County.
Not Big
Signal.
Bend.
I mean, Kirkham and-
Brentwood.
Or Lockwood, no, Elm. Kirkwood and Elm.
Elm and Kirkwood is,
Yeah.
The bottom of it.
Bottom of the hill.
is county.
This
I'll have to
county.
check on that, but I know when they renamed it, I'm not sure if county took over control of that 1/8 of a mile or not, but I know Brentwood is county road.
So it's county, but I mean, if it made sense, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it just seems like a roundabout would make a lot of sense there, and a lot of places are doing that because it keeps flow going and you're not stopping, and it just seems like the perfect spot for one. But is that something that we, Webster and the county, ever could like talk about?
You could get someone in Webster to do it potentially, but St. Louis County is notoriously, of course, they have to deal with. I mean, they would probably say, if you guys want to fund it and fund deconstruction and reconstruction, and once you have the money, then we'll talk. I'm just guessing from experience, but
I mean, it seems like there's some infrastructure money out there somewhere, but
So going north, I guess I'm getting confused, I guess coming up the hill, going, I guess
It's going south.
Going south, it's 2 lanes and it goes on.
2 lanes.
Railroad Bridge,
Yeah.
then it comes up to Lockwood, but then there's a right turn there.
Right. And then the traffic already backs up now because of that single lane going south. That's where it backs up now down to
So
Marshall Place.
single lane, okay. so-
Because the right lane there is a right turn only lane onto westbound Lockwood. And so the traffic already backs up there because of that single lane restriction to continue south onto.
Well, then what about going north? Because it sounds like going north, going down the hill would be more of the safety issue, because people are saying buses are flying down the hill and everything there. Would that be going?
can I?
Well, that
share
is the side of the
screen?
street that.
Yeah,
houses
go ahead.
all.
Yeah, you're still panels, you can share things.
Yeah, I know.
Because it seems like maybe that side we could make it more, and the other side could stay too, or whatever.
I'm wondering if do we have the ability to request data? Like the amount of traffic on that street?
Absolutely. Which
I would like to
I'm
make a
saying-
motion
I
there
think it's gonna be very expensive to do that in the first place,
for,
to change that for 4 houses, I agree. But I mean, I was just thinking about, right. I
we
guess
can
I didn't
definitely
realize about
request the
the
data
traffic.
on that. We can have Public Works put out the traffic tubes. And do that and get a car count on how many cars are traveling that, north and southbound on Elm.
if I
That's no
can,
problem.
yeah, work out for a second. Let me.
Like I
This
said,
thing
I'm
is
not a big
making me.
believer one way or the other. I was just curious, and so we'd be trying to get more data on that, like, because the people who were here, I think, talked about it, were saying that they're going, trying to make a right into their house, and buses are flying up on them because they're going down the hill.
and it's one of those things too that it's like Rock Hill. What does that become after Manchester, going up to
McKnight.
Yes.
So that backs up twice a day or once a
Yep.
day. But the rest of the time, it's okay.
Right.
So, is it like, okay, it's gonna be busy, once a day. If it's gonna overall, I mean, that's the pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really wanna have all that
Real estate,
real estate dedicated just for 2 times a day?
right.
Don't,
Flashing sign.
So, I'm gonna throw out there that I think. It's potential that we could actually go down to 1 lane in each direction. With turn lanes, which already exist at the intersections. Which could then narrow down those streets and potentially slow them down a little. I would think that would be a possibility depending on the amount of traffic in the area. But I think it'd be fair to find out first how much traffic's in the area,
Traffic.
yeah.
mean,
And there
that's
are less expensive ways to do that, I mean, striping and those flexible bollards, have you ever seen those? I mean, it's not the most attractive, so there's your pros and cons, what the city can afford versus what the residents
What would
want
the expense
in
be?
front of their
I'd
house.
be curious.
I think what would the expense be?
But do we concern ourselves with cost in this commission?
No, that's a good,
Oh,
great
okay.
point. That's a great
We
point.
can ask for a little bit, instead of something.
Yellow Brick Road.
But I think, look, I want to go back more specifically to, so southbound, it seems to me. You could do things to slow that down by having the right lane, right turn only, all the way back to Kirkham. I mean, you could do, enforceable like they do on 270, dotted line, and there's no cutting back in once you're in that right lane. After a certain point. The bigger problem, I think, is the northbound where you've got the homes and are there 2 right turn lanes at the bottom of the hill? Can you make a right on both lanes? or
Yes,
just-
both lanes
Yeah.
turn right onto Brown.
Yeah, and so that facilitates those cars getting through there. So I don't know how to fix that. I
Right.
mean,
And I think once we do a traffic count and we actually bring you the numbers of how many cars travel that roadway a day.
Yeah.
It's gonna shock you.
It will, I know, yeah, I think so too.
Cause they had a whole big thing when they were years ago when they were doing the Highway 40 reconstruction or whatever, they talked about that. Putting the stop line here on Elm.
Well, and then I can
And
tell you
the
that.
toilet out in front of the yard.
Yoda had us do some changes at the time for that because of that
Yeah.
construction, which is partially what happened with, we had the no left turn lanes onto Gore.
Right.
Yeah.
We had, some stoplight installed on Elm and some various other things because of that construction, because that was a 2-year project.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of traffic.
And there was
And there was a
toilet,
lot of
but
traffic.
Cold toilet.
But because the impact of that highway being shut down for construction impacted the surface roads that so greatly.
Right.
So.
Right.
And wasn't Elm scheduled to be widened?
Yeah.
At one point,
At
I
one
think it was like
point.
when I moved here. So I remember,
So for the record, at one point, that was going to be the inside loop. So 170 was gonna continue down. It should have continued south of Eager, all the way down South County. I assume they wanted to connect it back in the 255 or 55. And then at some point it wasn't gonna happen, and then Elm became the natural extension, and obviously people didn't want that through a neighborhood, but the de facto extension is still Elm. People still use that for commuting. And they haven't found another way to divert those cars.
Even with Laclede, which is 2 lanes in both directions all the way to it still.
Right.
And that made cars travel on that road, now including Elm.
Right.
So.
So can we request,
Yep.
Traffic count, I would
Yep.
like to request,
All right, I got it.
hourly traffic volumes, not just
They'll give the whole-
daily.
They'll give the whole data.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be hourly data, and depending on how the tubes are, there's some issues with them. We'll get some speed counts and everything else with it as well.
Cause they'll do speed counts as well at that time. Okay. And then I guess accidents reported too. Can we get that?
Yeah, we can, that's a different program. We can pull those up and see how many accidents, go back 2, 3, 4 years and see how many accidents in the vicinity have occurred at an intersection or whatnot. Auto crashes, not accidents. Geeking out there.
No, it's true. It's crash data. That's what.
Crash data, it's not
Crash
accident
data.
data.
You hit fewer crashes.
Now, we're really gonna, as my dad
Yeah,
always said, accidents don't just happen, they're caused.
That's right.
This is a dad line.
All right.
Okay, so next item on the agenda, so in that case, we're moving on because we
Yes.
requested data, so we will table that further discussion.
Table it for further.
Okay,
Yes.
Lockwood and Westboro.
Okay. Did not disseminate, did I disseminate the ordinance to you guys?
Yeah, you did
I
last.
did.
time.
I did Friday. I think I attached it. No. I might have just received it this morning.
Okay.
Okay, so let me see if I can pull this up, share my screen
Oh, we have it.
and share. Okay, so after the last meeting, we went ahead and this is kind of really just an update and what we're gonna do as a city. We're gonna go ahead and recommend an ordinance change on this policy, so it's not even anything you all have to vote on. We're gonna do it anyways. And basically, the way the ordinance was written, right here is this crosswalk. And as it stands right now, there's a sign that's right about here that says no parking all the way down to this, all the way down to a no parking sign right here. And it says no parking here Monday through Friday, like 8 to 5, no stopping, standing, walk, parking there. Well, after 5 o'clock and on weekends, it's on school days only. And so after that, people could park in this intersection, could park at the crosswalk and all that. So there's a no parking sign here with an arrow pointing this way. We're going to change the ordinance to read, recommend that it changes that from the east passenger loading zone, which is right here, to a distance of 72 feet east, which goes all the way to right here. We're going to have the ordinance changed and keep the no parking restriction Monday through Friday, no stopping, standing, all that stuff, Monday through Friday. And then add in a section to that from the point extending eastward, this ordinance shall establish a no parking any time zone, which is between 105 feet from this sign to this sign here, which will then encompass the entire intersection and the 20 feet ordinance that's in place for this stop sign.
Question,
Yes.
so. No parking, stopping, I mean, I went over there and there's 2 signs where you said
Mhm.
here, One says no stopping anytime, basically.
Right,
Right next to it, it says loading and unloading only,
right.
which means stopping, right?
Well, they're separate because they're up here is a loading zone. But down here, this is Lockwood Kurt, this is Westbrook. I know what you're saying, Clark, and so one of them is a loading zone, but they didn't want the entire street to be a loading zone, which is what the original ordinance was written for. Which that means, so basically from the signs, there's no stopping, they just wanted the loading zone up here. There's nothing, where from wherever that sign sits, like you can't zoom in on this picture.
I've got a picture of it, but
Yeah,
it was just sort of confusing.
oh, absolutely,
I mean, when it says no stopping,
right,
standing or anything.
Right.
But within that, it says loading.
Right.
You know, within that area that you say you can't do it. Then it says you can do it.
well, and yeah, it was confused, the signage up there is confusing, the way the ordinance was written is confusing. So I have the language here for it, it says no parking, stopping or standing Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. through 5 p.m.
Right.
Which is on the north side of Lockwood Court, beginning just east of the exiting passenger loading and unloading zone, which is what you're talking about. So right here is a loading and unloading zone,
And you're not changing anything.
not changing anything on there. And then there's a sign somewhere in here, somewhere right around here, there's a sign that has an arrow pointing this way.
Yeah.
That says no stopping, standing, parking Monday through Friday. We're gonna keep that, but shorten the distance to where it ends right here. So then there's no stopping, standing, loading, parking, whatever, right here, Monday through Friday, 7 to 5.
But you know, it's interesting because that, you know, so I was watching, I happened to be there right when there's 9 preschoolers.
Yeah.
You know, they come out
And
down
cross,
that, no, they don't cross. The teacher walks them to their car, right there where you're.
right here.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's where they come out.
So
I mean,
once
that's where the
again,
ramp
it
is.
comes down to the enforcement of it. The whole objective is to keep that open. And so the easiest way to do that is just rewrite the ordinance and just make no parking permanently here. So you're eliminating parking in the intersection and within 20 feet of the crosswalk. And then the ordinance Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, no stopping, standing, loading right here, parking, whatever, and then keeping this the loading zone.
And so what they said, they were interesting, because they said, actually, the American Community Peace people that come and line up there when their school's up. That's why all that cars are lined up there. It's not the preschool,
It's the enforcement, yeah, of that.
it's the,
So that's the recommendation that we're gonna make to correct that one intersection. Because it does, we already have the ordinance in place for the 20 feet and then a crosswalk, so.
Perfect.
Any questions on that? Because we're gonna roll with it. It's just a little addition to the ordinance. It's just a little change.
The
of ordinance.
purpose of the no parking there is allowing preschool kids to get picked up. What's the purpose of the no parking on that stretch?
there's a crosswalk.
Well, I get the crosswalk, but to the west of the crosswalk. What's the purpose of it being restricted there?
Don't have an answer for you,
Right.
honestly. That ordinance has been in place prior to my,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that should be a loading.
I think
zone.
visibility for pedestrians, because
It-
if
it
you're, you're,
could be.
you're coming and going and you have trucks or vehicles parked there, you can't make a pass and look left and right, you know?
it very well could be. Yeah, might be. All right, anything else on that one?
That's
No.
I got
nice.
2 other things that I just want to bring up under old
Okay.
business that weren't on the agenda,
Yep.
and they're just simple answers to questions brought up last time. Parking in the bike lane, answer. Yes, you can park in the bike lane. If it is not designated a no parking zone, it is a parkable spot.
It's good to know.
Yes, particularly on, because the bike lanes on roads that don't have parking lanes, like on Bompard and that, where it's a bike lane, but there's also allowed parking on the side of the road, you can park there. And then secondly, the question was brought up about the Southwest Park crosswalk, and there was parking allowed within, we went and checked that out, and there's parking right up to that crosswalk. And you would know that because you live right there. That is just a simple work order put into Public Works because the ordinance is already in place that no parking within 20 feet of the crosswalk. So we're gonna have this sign erected there, no parking here.
Can you have handicap parking that close to it? I mean, I noticed one down here in front of the bank. You know that crosswalk by the block?
I know handicap takes a separate ordinance. And so I don't know if they wrote an ordinance specifically for that one or not. We have to research it.
Yeah,
and find
I
out.
mean,
I don't know. Because the ordinance does not designate between handicap or regular parking. Just says no parking within 20 feet of
Just
it.
to note the ordinance.
And that very much could have been a special ordinance written.
Hmm.
Don't know.
Okay.
All right, that's all I had.
And that's all, and you didn't have any new business?
And I had no new business, nothing came into me.
All right,
I would like to ask what's next on the parking? What do you see as next? I mean, that was a draft and then do you have suggestions? Because I'd like to keep that rolling.
yeah, I know, I agree. That's a good
Signed out,
question.
you signed me out.
I didn't sign you out, I promise.
Probably the plan.
Chris,
Well, our Zoom is over.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still in, so, oh no, am I in? I'll look and see if I'm still in.
Does Zoom automatically kick you out after an hour?
No, it's the same issue. I don't, it says we're recording.
Yeah, I'm still in. You just got signed out.
Who knows what just happened? I don't know. That was the thing, we got, when I signed in earlier, I kicked the Green Commission out, and then they signed back in and kicked me out. And I'm like, what is going on?
You have 3 participants now instead of 2, which is a headset, or maybe somebody did
Ron.
something.
Oh, Ron, he's the one that recommended the Southwest Park. I'm assuming that's one.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, Ron, so we're making that change, Ron. On the crosswalk.
Oh,
He put his hand up.
yeah, he did put his hand up. Do we have a mechanism for that?
Can you unmute them?
There isn't anything, yeah, well, I don't know how to.
Allowed to talk.
How to talk.
Ron, I think you
Ron, you
can.
there? You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We have you.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes it takes a while, but the people using that crosswalk will feel much safer now. Plus, the people exiting the park will have much increased visibility with fewer cars parking that close to the crosswalk. So thank you. Good move.
You're welcome.
Ron, also, it was not on our agenda, but for old business for your request or recommendation that we look at that, adding a stop sign there at Dobbin. Chris was going to do some research on that. I'm looking up here. Chris is going to do some research on that, and he is not here this week, so that's why we did not discuss it.
I'm aware of that, and I did not go around and try to get any petitions while he was gathering information, because if his information is, all one way or all the other way, it would be a moot point to try to get a petition on top of that. So we'll wait and see what he comes up with.
Okay, I think one of the things he wanted to do was try to talk to some of your neighbors, but I don't know where he is with that, so.
He's in
Okay.
Alaska.
Yeah, that's where he is with this.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I wonder if we should just put that on, add it to new business as a proposal that we want to make. With or without our official policy.
For old business.
On.
On
Dobbin.
looking at looking at
Well,
parking around the high school.
I'll say Dobbin, we would also have to do a traffic count on that.
Yeah, oh yeah, actually, I told Chris that I was gonna request that. Can we
Yeah,
request that?
I just made a note on it.
Okay, yeah. Does the city do a site does staff ever do like a site distance investigation or survey? Do you know? Okay. Because a lot of times, one of the stop sign criteria is site
Site
distance.
distance.
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I've requested and recommending still that an engineer from our traffic unit, Public Works, attend these meetings and be a part of it. Because I'm a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, worst comes to worst, we can ask for it and they can tell us
I'm
no.
gonna ask again.
Okay, that's.
To have a
Peel
liaison
the
be.
scab off.
Of what?
My arm.
Oh,
I muted him.
there you go.
There we go.
Okay,
Now he's muted.
now we've made it.
Sorry, Ron. But I will do traffic count there too,
Okay.
Dobbin and Rocket.
I did get by the high school, some parent overheard me. They said, oh, you're on the traffic advisory, it was Saturday night. And what's the street from Big Bend that goes in front of Robert's Gym?
Oh.
Selma, Bradford.
Bradford. So Bradford, when it comes into Summit, there's a stop sign. But through it, there's no stop sign. So in the morning, they said it's just.
Bradford doesn't go.
Yeah, Bradford dead ends into Selma.
Nobody.
Right.
Selma.
Okay, Selma.
Into Selma. So if there's Selma, you can just drive through. It's not like a three-way stop.
Right, it's just a one-way
And
street.
it's just like a log jam is what he was saying. It's just unbelievable because nobody moving anywhere because there's, you can't get off of Bradford. Because cars are just going.
It's safe. I like it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the answer. I like it.
I drop off every
That's why
morning.
it's slowing traffic down.
Actually, at high school, I drop off every morning. It's true, the people who drop off their kiddo who are heading eastbound on Selma or on Bradford downhill. Once they hit Selma, they struggle to even turn right, much less turn left.
This has been a problem
Yeah,
forever since my kids were in high school. And
I think, right,
Well, it's
do away with
fun.
the parking lots down there, that'll help.
well, and I wonder, I mean, I think the point they're making is if we made that a three-way stop, it would allow that, it would allow them gaps, so to move. to
That's what he was saying.
Mhm. And it's not a bad
What would they
recommendation.
do then? What would be? the-
Again, it would have to be a traffic,
Yeah,
study
traffic
again,
study.
and then, we're talking about that again for
But
the,
see, here's an interesting, how do we get a petition for that? We don't petition residents.
yeah, you couldn't.
Yeah, because it's the school.
It's a school district.
I wonder if we would ask, if we asked the school if they had a preference. But then we're taking it upon ourselves, but it's actually not a bad request personally. It's worthy of investigation. So,
How come no schools, well, not many that I see, except for maybe like Clark, have a crossing guard?
So the funding on that, and so there are several crossing guards. There's one down here
Bristol.
on Brentwood, there's one at Bristol, there's one at Hickson. Clark has it on Big Bend, so
Well, is
they're
there
there.
one at Hickson,
It's an SRO, it's a police.
Yeah,
officer.
which is awesome, which would be great if.
Right.
Was it-
And a lot of times it's just staff that goes out and does it.
Yeah.
And then also Steger or whatever they call the sixth grade center now. I forget what its name
Yeah.
changes. They have cross guard there.
Oh, so quite a few have.
Yeah.
Quite a few
Yeah.
more than.
it is a lot of times staff. but-
A lot of times it's staff.
In the Baptist church down there on Kirkman Sunday mornings.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I remember at Clark for a while, it was they were
Yeah.
just staffing with volunteers.
Do we ever, do we have a regular schedule now? Not our next meeting.
No, we do not. But
Can we have a request to take this room at a certain time every month?
no,
Don't sugarcoat it, Captain Perks.
we can look at and see, but it boils all down to the availability of the room. And if you want to pick a date right now and let me look in my calendar, I will be able to tell you if that room is going to be available or not.
So I think last time we wanted to aim for second or third Monday of the month.
This is a second.
I think
This
the
is
second.
second.
I think it's the second, but I thought we said the third.
I thought we
For
said the
some
third,
reason,
and this was only available this second.
Yeah, you just give me a date and I'll let you know when,
It
whatever. it
doesn't
is.
really matter.
I will throw out the 17th, just because I won't be here on the 10th personally,
Okay,
but that's really selfish of me.
Yeah, 17.
17,
That worked for me.
okay. And unfortunately,
see, I think this is how we ended up with the second last.
I can't do it on, I have no idea how to do this on my cell phone. I gotta go to my office computer and do it. Let me write that down and I will take a look at that tomorrow.
Okay,
So October 17th.
and then if
I had to send an email, the email I sent to you all with the 3 attachments on it. I'd had to do that for my phone because my work iPad that I was off site and my work iPad had some technical issues and I couldn't log into my work stuff until today. I had to bring it into IT and have them fix it. So I had to do that for my phone, and you don't have any idea how difficult that was. 3 documents to attach to an email from Outlook from my phone and to get it sent to you all. I was actually telling Aaron, it took me 25 minutes to do 1 email from my phone for that because it was,
They don't make dragging and dropping as easy as you think they should.
that's the problem. It's an attachment whole thing and going.
Going to another.
Okay, I will send an email out tomorrow. If I get the meeting, you'll all get the invite. 5:30 time, right?
yes. Chris will do the next agenda, but I'm gonna ask him to put on for new business.
Yeah.
The high school parking as well as the Bradford Selma stop sign. And we'll just discuss it next week and where we want to go. And then do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All those in favor? Do I have to do that? Yeah, okay.
No, you can just get a second.
I was gonna say, nobody's gonna oppose that, are they?
Not, there's no closing on the term.
All right.
Thanks, Ron. I'm ending here.